Namaste to all of you for attending today's class, number 4 in the series of Panchadashi, chapter 11. So let us start with a couple of prayers, Sahana Vavatu, and then the Panchadashi, its own prayer. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Now the other prayer. Namah Shri Shankarananda Guru Padam Bhujanmane Savilasa Maha Moha Graha Grasaika Karmane. Okay, so with that, let us start the class. So, what this chapter is all about is the science of gaining Ananda. So this should be distinguished from the experience of gaining Ananda. So the experience of gaining Ananda is pretty much known to us. We have a number of options in our life and we invoke them from time to time. And but the issue with that is that our sense of Ananda, happiness, does not last. It seems to come and go. When we have some issues that we can address, we address it. But then after that, some other issues come up. One of our students, Jen Sterling from Austin, wrote me an email today, which is interesting. She said, in the arcade where the young kids play, there is a game called Whack-A-Mole. I'm sure many of you must have seen it. So what that it is that you go to this game and you're given a fixed amount of time, and there are different holes from which a rabbit cup suddenly pops up, and you're supposed to you're given a handle and you're supposed to push that rabbit back, and where the next rabbit comes by, there's maybe about 20 of them or 25 or something like that. You don't know. You don't know where the next rabbit is going to come from. So your skill involves just whacking them down one at a time and others keep coming up. I think it's a good analogy. And this is what our life is all about. We try to solve our problems in one direction and all of a sudden something else happens. And you try to solve that and something else happens. So, this is what life is all about. So, in a way, it's kind of, it's interesting that Ishvara has provided us with two options. One is to get a somewhat immediate relief without waiting for a fundamental relief. We can do that. The classical example is going to a pharmacist. A pharmacist is not very well trained in the science of the diseases, but he or she knows a few things, and it can be helpful, no doubt about it. But the Ishvara has also made it possible that if you want to solve the very disease of problems in life, it's possible to do so. So for that you have to really equip yourself. You have to get really ready. In other words, to see the very science of diseases, you first have to go to a regular college, 4-year college. Then you have to go to the specialized medical school. And then perhaps, if depending on how acute or new the disease is, you may have to specialize in postgraduate work. Then you have to start applying it. It takes a number of years. For those of you that have gone into the medical field, you will know how long it takes. By the time you start to earn your first dollar, you're already in your late 20s. And that's why the doctors don't want to go very cheap. They do want to recoup their investment. Anyway, going back to it, so the study of Vedanta is to study the science of problems. And so this chapter is an introduction, not a comprehensive, it requires a lot of study, but it's an introduction to a science of Ananda. Not experiential Ananda that we are equipped to handle, and the Shastra doesn't bother with that at all. It doesn't say, if you have this problem, then how do you solve it? And so we know how to do that. We can go to the local doctors, pharmacist. But and of course the other thing is that what stops us from getting the instruction on the science of the disease itself is a kind of firm belief that I'm not sure it's possible to do so. You don't even investigate it because you feel, I don't know, this is the best we can do. You just live a life as well as you possibly can, and some more successfully than others, but other than that, how can you do that? But once you start investigating and you ask the right people, and then, so this is where, as we were discussing last week, the value of an authoritative source of knowledge is important. We have to really rely on that. It's kind of like, if you have some kind of a chronic disease that really is bothering you, then you look for some specialists and say, is there a specialist that I can go to? And you have to do a lot of investigation for the specialist. You have to maybe ask 3 or 4 people. And if they all point out to say, yes, that is the person you should go to, then when you go to see that person, you listen. You don't question and says, what makes you such an expert? Because that's already been done. So the Shruti is also like that. So Shruti means that it's been well tried. If it didn't work, then it would wither away, but it hasn't. This is well tried and it works. The only question is whether I can get it or not. Am I qualified to do it or not? And so like any kind of a heart specialist or something like this, where you have to get trained not only to help yourself but to others, you have to go through the training. Anyway, so long story short, so this chapter is a synopsis of the science of Ananda. This is what we are trying to do. Okay, so we studied last week and the week before that first of all, the establishment of the authority. You like asking, is this really true? Can I really overcome all problems? Every possible problem? Including death? Is it possible? And the first part of the Shruti, which is to establish a trust in you, is to say yes. It is consistently pointed out in all of the Upanishads, and there's no two way about it. And plus, people have had experiences in their life, and you can learn from that. So that was number 1. And what it pointed out was, and then you started to get introduced into the science of Ananda. First, the establishment of authority, and then after that, 101, Biology 101. And what it said was, we've already done this, I'm just revising this, that Ananda is possible if you can see non-duality in this world. You have to see non-duality despite the appearance of duality. And so that can only be possible when you understand that the appearance of duality doesn't interfere with non-duality. So when you're dreaming, for instance, there is an appearance of duality, but that doesn't really interfere. It may interfere while you are dreaming, but in no way does it interfere with your personality as a waker. And so that is not a really, if it is a true duality, then we will always be immersed in duality. And so the instructions are no. So therefore, Ananda, unlimited joy, happiness, Sukham, is possible if you understand non-duality. And I think one of the questions was, is sleep the only time? And no, there are other ways to do that. I mentioned that the sexual union, this is a very important thing because Ishvara makes procreation as a very top priority. And so anytime there is a creation of something, Swami Dayananda used to say that any creation, and here this is a very big creation of progeny, is tinged with Ananda. Anytime you discover something, anytime you come up with something original, anytime you're thinking about something which seems to be new to you, it's Ananda. And so that is another one. And then finally, it is well proven that the yogic samadhi, nirvikalpaka samadhi, is also non-dual ananda, the experience of non-duality. So here, it's very interesting, in those three examples, deep sleep, sexual union, as well as a samadhi, there is an experience of duality. And this will be taken up later on in this chapter. What do you mean by an experience of duality? It is, I'm sorry, I keep on saying the experience of duality, experience of non-duality. These are experiences of non-duality. So what do you mean by an experience of non-duality? That means it is just a very close cousin to non-duality, but it is not duality. Why? Because the seed of duality is still around and it will fructify. As we will see from a sleep, a lot of it, analysis on sleep is being given. So therefore, to summarize, that the Shastra says yes, unlimited Sukham is possible, but then you should know that there should not be any sense of duality. No, you can have an experience of duality, but your conclusion that you are non-dual should be very clear, and it should not interfere with the knowledge that it is non-dual. So when the dream ends or it is ending, you realize that this was just a false imposition on me. So that is the basic, we already saw this, that non-duality and is the important one. So then there was an analysis that how can you say that? So then now the example of sleep was given, that in deep sleep there is no experience of duality. There's only an experience of non-duality, and we will take up that a little bit later on. And also there are some characteristics about the non-duality in sleep that were pointed out. One of the characteristics is that it is self-evident and it is not caused by anything. And so there was some dialogue that we went through in the last week. How can you say that? And so we ended up with verse number 32 in this chapter, that yes, it was proven that the experience of non-duality is self-existing, swatasiddha, It is not due to any reason. That is the very nature of it. So this was done. So finally that question was answered. Now let us start with new material. Okay? And the new material starts with verse number 33 and goes up to verse number 42. So this is a new subtopic. We said the main topic is Niratishaya Ananda, and the subtopics are as follows, and this is the next subtopic. So the reason for this subtopic is the doubt. So as you know, the very teaching of Vedanta incorporates doubts. It raises questions and answers them. It's very helpful because it doesn't wait you to ask questions. That's why we feel that really speaking, you should just listen to the main discourse, and you will see that the doubts are already addressed. And if they're not addressed, then you can ask a question. In fact, the doubts that are raised by the Shastra itself are much deeper than what you and I can come up with ourselves. They choose the best doubts and then raise it, and then proceed to answer it. So here a new doubt is raised in this subtopic, starting with number 33, which says, okay, you have established that in sleep there is non-duality. Okay, I accept that because all the reasons were given, all the discussions took place, and you were able to convince me that sleep is non-duality. But now I have a new doubt, which is, how you have not told me that the non-duality is equal to Ananda. See, that was the original contention that Brahman, which is the very essence of non-duality, is Ananda. And now you are proving that in sleep it is non-dual. But you have yet to prove that the non-duality experience in sleep equals Ananda. Can you please do that? He says, oh, okay, I'll be glad to. Happy to answer this doubt for you. So then, in this, I won't go through exactly, verse by verse, as you know, given our time limitation. So in this space of 10 verses, 33 to 42, it says that, listen, there are only two opposite things. One is sukha and one is dukkha. So sukha means happiness and dukkha means unhappiness. Okay? There are only two things. And don't you see that in sleep there is no unhappiness? There's only happiness. Therefore, what is left is happiness. So then the person comes up and he says, not so fast. I am still not convinced. He says, really? Why not? He says, if you take a brick, the brick is not unhappy. Okay? Because it's not complaining, it is just sitting there. It's comfortable with what it is. But it is also not happy. How can you tell that the brick is just the absence of dukkha? Doesn't mean equals it is sukha. So then the person says, listen, your example of a brick is untenable. Why? Because the brick is inert. In a Chaitanya Purusha, one who is aware, one who has Sukshma Sharira, one who has Chaitanyam, one who has the awareness of what's going on and so on, has a face. And from the face you can tell whether the person is happy or unhappy. The brick doesn't have a face. It cannot change. It's sitting there inert. But a live person can have dukkha or sukha. And if a person is not dukkhi, that means he is sukhi. And in fact, I'll tell you what, this argument continues. Don't you see that we look forward to going to sleep? We make sure that now that summer has come, all things have changed very suddenly. Really, our bedroom is on the top floor, and in the winter time it gets very cold, and you have to make sure that everything is shut and so on and so forth. In the summertime, the upstairs gets very warm. In fact, I just turned the fan on, and so what happens is, if you're not careful, you go to sleep and it's too warm. And so we are lucky we don't have to run the air conditioner very much, only in the afternoon for a few hours. And then all you need to do is to open the windows and let the fan be on, and the wind comes in and you're comfortable. So I do all of this so that I sleep well. Now, if sleep were to give me dukkha, would I do this? And here there's a long discussion that you not only turn the fan on and make sure that the temperature is okay, but you also smoothen the bed and make sure that your pillow is just right and that you've got a nice soft cover. There's no harshness in it, because you want to be very comfortable. Okay. So the person raises another question, another doubt. He says, no, I'm still not convinced. Why not? He says, that's because this is to make sure that you don't have any pain anywhere, that you are not uncomfortable. And so it is to remove the pain. So Siddhanti says, what are you talking about? Do you have to have this behavior? What behavior? Of turning the fan on, smoothing up the bed, all those things we talked about, only when you are in trouble? No. Well, in fact, if you're in trouble, that you might not want to do any of this because you've got a big problem somewhere and you don't care about, you can't even go to sleep. Eventually you will. But the point is that you approach sleep with joy. And also another thing, this is an interesting thing, we will, when we summarize this whole thing, this point will become a very important one. And this is the point where Vidyaranyaji expands it, because he looks at the entire canvas of Ananda and discusses all variations of it, and comes up with a overarching explanation that takes care of all the variations. So one of them is that before going to sleep and after sleep for a while, you begin to get some happiness even before you go to sleep, and for a while even after you go to sleep. That means the very nearness of sleep gives you ananda. What to talk about the sleep itself, which is nothing but ananda. This is an important thing. So both the approach and the coming out of it, both of them are indicative of the fact that the sleep is a very beautiful thing. Okay. This is something like, I was just thinking of this on my own. Supposing you are going in a car and you approach a tunnel. You're going in a tunnel. Like we have this Caldecott tunnel near Oakland, and a long tunnel. And as you approach the tunnel, of course, once you are in the tunnel, it's completely dark, unless for some of the artificial lights that are there. Any cave or a tunnel is completely dark. But as you approach it, you see the darkness engulfing you. In fact, you have to turn on the car lights. And so this is approaching the tunnel means that the tunnel is completely dark, and we will see that the darkness of sleep is important. How it hides problems from you, it is a very important thing. We'll talk about that in a minute. But anyway, so here to answer the question, now we have answered the question that sleep is not only non-dual, it is also Ananda. So that topic is now tackled. Now, with verse number 43 going up to 57, so 14, 15 verses, a new subtopic is it started. Okay, so let's look into that. Okay. The main topic, and this is really the main of the main topic, and I think you pretty much know this, but it is important to articulate it and to recall it from time to time. This is a very important segment that we are going to do. And what it's saying is that Sukham or Ananda, joy. Here I find that number of the books from learned Swamijis and so on use the word bliss. I think I've talked about this before also, but it's worth reiterating. Like Swami Harshananda's books that I have borrowed a lot of his translations and so on, he uses the word bliss. So in our discussions with Swami Dayanandji, he was saying this is not good. Use the word bliss is not good. Why isn't it good? Because, and in fact I can interrupt myself, one day was an interview with Deepak Chopra, Mr. Deepak Chopra. And he happened to be in this local area, and so this TV reporter was interviewing him. Mr. Dr. Chopra, tell us about the experience of realization. And he said, oh, the experience of realization is you have a super consciousness that engulfs you. So the reporter was saying, wow, wonderful. As though he's already had it and now he's going to teach. This is BS. And the use of the word bliss, according to, and this is from my teacher, otherwise I would have used it actually, is from Swami Dayanandji used to say, don't use that. You know why? Because bliss is just like Deepak Chopra using the word super consciousness. There is no super consciousness. There's only one consciousness, and if that consciousness has duality, then it causes problems to you. And when it doesn't have duality, it causes no problems to you. It's the same consciousness. And the same thing is there for the word joy. We have the experience of joy. Every night we have the experience of joy. It is not a special bliss that was there and then you have to achieve it and so on. So the words are very important. Words are very important. This is why Swami Dayanandji, and I learned so much from him in terms of how you approach the Sampradaya. So for example, he would say, Swamiji will say, never say that Vedanta is a philosophy. And some of the people, even Swami Paramarthananda, I see them, he is using the word philosophy, but you know, he's a great person. He understands what it is all about, and perhaps he has to communicate with people who can look at this. But Swami Dayanandji would never, Swami Tattvavidananda also sometimes uses it. Swami Viditatmananda never uses it. I never use it. I mean, we've been really trained by Swami Dayanandji. So Vedanta is never a philosophy. You know what philosophy means is this is a point of view, a speculation. This is my view. I think this is not like that. Is it a philosophy that you are a man or a woman? My philosophy is that I am a man. It's not philosophy, it's a fact. That I am Satchidananda is a fact. I don't know the fact. That's a separate thing altogether. Anyway, this is a soap opera on not to use the word bliss. If you ever write to me, please don't use the words, Vijayji, what do you mean by bliss? I am not even going to answer your email. Just kidding. So anyway, really just simple joy will do. So anyway, this new topic verses with verse number 43 says that the natural joy is natural to all living beings. Natural. What do you mean by natural? What it means is, this is what the living beings are made out of. That is the Swarupa of Ananda, is the Swarupa of you and I. And this should be not just words, but the moment you really understand this very well and live your life with that fact in mind, things will begin to happen. Really, I'm telling you. You'll see a complete reordering of priorities in your life and so on, which means it has so many implications that really my natural content, what I am, is nothing but Ananda alone. And so this is what is being pointed out in this section also, and the whole chapter is like that. It's not as though only in one subtopic it is there, but this subtopic dares to now bring that up direct front and center. It says that Ananda, and what the Ananda means is a sense of not wantingness. I don't want and I'm okay. And you get this feeling when you've had a good meal. So, and this is why Swami Dayananda used to say that the experience of not wanting anything can be easily obtained by having a good meal, where you don't want anymore. Your spouse may be saying, come on, you can have another chapati. And usually you give in and say, okay, if you say so, I'll have another chapati or another samosa. But there comes a point where he or she can give you one more chapati, one more samosa, and you say, I'm done. I'm very happy. So sukham here means, and so this is just for one experience, but the sense of the life, this is what we call kritakrityata. Kritakrityata is the technical language for this. What needs to be done has been done. I'm done. So this is what is called sukham, atyantika sukham. And so means the sense of non-wantingness, purnatva, fullness, joy, a sense of satisfaction. And so this is uncaused and natural to me. This I need to understand. At first I need to accept it. I may not understand it, but at least I listen to what the Shastra is saying. The Shastra is not going to tell you something which is not true. Not true. And so I should first listen to it and accept it for the time being. And then work on it. And to see myself, my own experiences, this is true. And so It is something like, um, if there is these archaeological expeditions where they are looking for lost cities. Because normally what happens is that the cities get covered with dirt over a period of time, over 1,000 years, and it might be near a river, the river has dried up and now it is abandoned, the dirt completely covers it, and a new dirt comes up 15, 20 feet higher than that. And so these archaeological teams, they say, I think there was a city here, like this finding of the Saraswati River in India. Now, there's a lot of work that has gone into it and say, yeah, it used to be over here. So in this archaeological field, supposing, and usually on these things there is a professor at college, and then there are students who are also digging, and one of them strikes a metallic sound, and he runs to his professor and says, "Sir, I struck a metallic sound." And this is very of gold is that it doesn't change, it doesn't tarnish, it just stays there as it is. The Shastra gives another very interesting example, which is that of sandalwood. So most of us know sandalwood is an extraordinarily aromatic wood. But they say, I haven't ever experienced it, but they say that if you bury it in water, then a film forms on the surface of it, which has a very bad smell to it. It looks bad and it has a very bad smell to it. And what you need to do is to remove that film by taking it out, drying it out. You may have to scrape it. The sandalwood comes up. It doesn't lose its beautiful aromatic substance. Really speaking, this is our situation in our life. Deep down below, not very deep in fact, not very deep, but anyway, just a way of saying it, our Swarupa is Ananda, unlimited joy, unlimited joy. If you want to talk about a word that approximates bliss, it is unlimited joy. It is still joy. It is unlimited joy. And but it's covered. It's covered with muck. And so this is the basics of it, really speaking. I have to find that, so Brahman, which is who I really am, is pure joy. But I have covered it up with a jivatvam. No, I cannot be Brahman. I don't want to be Brahman, that's too much. All I want to do is just, I want to avoid the coronavirus, and I want to get a good job and some money, and that's it. I don't want to have unlimited joy and so on and so forth. Because that's not me. I can't believe that. Whether you believe it or not, you are. What can we do? It's like a golden vessel saying, no, if you just sort of scrape up a few things, that's all I need. I don't bother to be put into a museum with shining gold and so on and so forth. Whether you want it or not, that's who you are. So, this is the central theme of this subtopic, that dukkha is not natural. Dukkha is not natural. So here, starting with verse number 42 and 43 and so on and so forth, going up to 57, it says that the main dirt that is covering my ananda is kamana. Kamana means a desire for some temporary satisfaction. That's all. And Swami Dayanand used to say that. He says, if you look at human emotions, two human emotions are hope and hopelessness. They're opposite to each other. Hopefulness and hopelessness. Hopelessness, of course, we are aware leads to depression and all kinds of serious problems, and could lead to the door of suicide and so on. It's a very sad thing. But what's wrong with hopefulness? Now you cannot put the two of them in the same reason is given, for example, in putting together punya and papa. So it's a very similar reasoning. So punya and papa are put into the same bucket. And I won't spend much time on it because I have to go on with this main topic. But just to summarize, papa is a rusted pair of handcuffs and punya is a shiny golden set of handcuffs. Both are handcuffs. How? Because punya means it will only happen when you are given a lot of sukha, experiential sukha, and it beckons you. You are people that are doing very well materialistically, have done a lot of good punya in the past. Now they are enjoying it. And if you tell them, listen, this is not going to last. So don't you want to start studying for something in the future? They'll say, not now. Okay? Because you may be studying Vedanta because you're materialistically not very successful. I don't know why you're doing all this. I am very happy. Okay? Don't bother me at this point. Okay, I thought I would just ask. So punya and papa are both not good. And so therefore here also the kamana is the main thing. And kamana means, and so for a moment I had lost the connection. So somebody used to say, then you should say that both hopelessness and hopefulness are to be avoided. I can understand hopelessness to be avoided. How should hopefulness be avoided? The reason is that a sense of hopefulness means postponing the understanding that I am already filled with joy to a future date. This is what is called Bhavasagar. Bhavasagar means this is an ocean of bhavanam, of becoming. That I'm very hopeful that I will be very happy in the future. Okay? You're not supposed to be happy in the future, you're supposed to be happy right now. Well, right now I'm not very happy. Okay? That's a fact. It's not a fact. Look into it. No, I don't have time to look into that. Okay? Fine. So therefore, really speaking, kamana is the main covering. Any kind of doing, busy doing things, don't disturb me, I'm very busy, is really the main covering of your ananda. Main covering of your ananda. And so, and it comes about, let's see if I can proceed you. So there are, what time is it? 8:44. Okay, so one dialogue in this subsection which takes place between 43 and 57 is that this dialogue takes place with some examples. That really speaking, when you are awake or dreaming, in both cases, you are busy transacting with people of figuring out how to be happy, how to make others happy, being tired of it, being unsuccessful completely, struggling to regain your balance, all those kinds of things, all the variations that you have. So you are tired. You're tired. And so what you do is you say, enough of dealing with this world. I just want to go to sleep. And then you sleep for a while, and then your karmas wake you up again, and then you going back again to the same thing. There's a separate section on waking up. We haven't come that yet, and I may not have much time to do so. So here 4 examples are given. One example is a small bird that has been, his feet are tied to a string. Okay, so this is one example given. So what happens is that this bird can fly about 2 or 3 feet around its cage, and it goes around here, goes around there, and so on, and finally it comes back to the cage alone. It gets very tired. So the human beings are something like that. We are tied by our karmas. And we can do some things, we can be happy for a while, this, that, or the other, then we feel tired and we go back to sleep, which is our base camp. So this is number 1. The second example is a big bird, like an eagle, whose feet are not tied to a string. It's free to go. Free to go. But what the eagle does is similar to the small bird, even though it is free to go. It goes around, looks for prey, and all kinds of things. We're having a lot of problems with wood rats in our ceiling, and in the attic rather, not ceiling but attic. And really it's a big problem. In the morning the guy says cluck, 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 and all kinds of issues. So we have a guy who comes in, and we were having a discussion with, so he says, wow, you live in an area, there's so many animals here. Well, I was telling him about this huge vulture that comes, because we have a water fountain, and the water is there in the summertime, and these vultures love to come there. So Steve, our animal controls guy, was telling me, he says the vulture is a remarkable animal. Do you know a vulture can smell a dead animal 5 miles away? And he's a professor, he teaches all this, he's a very he's not just like a casual kind of a guy. Amazing. Amazing. We have a neighbor, Vara Ramakrishnan, who has a dog. And even though she's my neighbor, but she lives kind of quite a bit away from me because of the hillside, and she's up on a higher elevation. This dog is amazing. The moment I open my back door to step out, this dog starts barking. To this day, I have not figured out whether he hears me or he sees me. But regardless, this fellow is just amazing. He'll start barking, saying, I know you're there. And if I climb the hill to exercise, which I do, then he gets crazy. Wow, 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 wow. But at least just soon I come out of my... Anyway, what all I'm saying is that this vulture, or rather this eagle, he's not constrained, but he can run around. Ultimately, though, he gets tired. Comes back to his own home base near a tree. We have a tree, oak tree, there we see a lot of vultures just resting there. The same thing happens to us. We are free to do, and nobody is asking us. These days, of course, we are constrained. We are like a small bird put into a cage. But otherwise, we can go anywhere. You go to Tahoe, you go to this, you go to there, go around. in the end when you'll say, I just want to go to sleep. So the sleep is our main point. Anyways, I think there's 3 or 4 different examples given. I think just these 2 are good enough for now. And so this section ends with verse number 57 by reiterating that our home base is a close proximity to Ishvara. We don't know it. We don't call it Ishvara and so on and so forth. You say, I just want to sleep. Where does Ishvara have something to do with it? Hey, it has everything to do with it. Because the proximity to Ishvara. Just a proximity. Not a knowledge yet. That will come later. But don't you see that you look forward to it, you enjoy it, and you don't want to get up? Not the dream part, that's not pleasant. Not the waking part, that's not pleasant. But the deep sleep is very pleasant. And so, this ends the section through logic, through yukti, through anubhava, your own experience, and through shruti. It says, please understand that your swarupa is ananda. Its swarupa is advaya and it's ananda. Advaya, ananda. Both of them. Don't you see it? Look into it. This is the instruction of the disease, where the doctor will say, don't you see? This is logical. When this happens, the disease happens. When this doesn't happen, the disease doesn't happen. You're trying to analyze the very process of it. It is not just going to a pharmacist. So this is that section that happens. 852. So here, a short subtopic is, I think I can go almost like 2 more subtopics. There is a new topic one thing that so in these subtopics, which is the normal way these things are presented, the end of the old topic introduces the new topic. So in the old topic with number 57, it points out that a sense of identification with something other than you is the source of Sukha Dukkha. Sukha Dukkha means experiential pleasure and experiential pain. It is the very source of it. So when the identification is not there, so in the deep sleep there is no identification. We have to see this. We have to say, yeah, that's true. The mind itself disappears. When the mind disappears, I mean, this is a beautiful way to understand. If the mind disappears and you are sorrowful, that means you need the mind to be happy. But you don't. If the mind disappears, identification disappears, you are at your normal state, which is Sukham. This is the topic. We have to see this. Cannot just dismiss it. If you're serious about it, you have to really think about it and accept this logic. And so in this new subtopic, which is 58 to 60, this process and logic of what is called Atma Bhava. And Atma Bhava means that an identification with just yourself, not with anything else, is the reason for non-duality and Ananda. This was the logic given in the previous one. I'm just talking about what we covered already, 43 to 57. Now this fact is now confirmed directly by the Shastra. So it's not derived logic. So far it was derived logic. But here it says yes. So he gives some very brief examples. One of them is from Kaivalya Upanishad. And in the Kaivalya Upanishad says that engulfed, this is another stepping stone to some new teaching that will come later on. So engulfed with ignorance, engulfed by tamas, you experience the joy of Brahman. Completely, it is something like, now I can use the word bliss. They say ignorance is bliss. Ignorance can be blissed. It's interesting. I'll give you an example of that. So you are just happy the way you are. You're sitting there watching TV or reading a book or eating some nice parathas or whatever you're doing. Okay? And one of your loved ones is traveling and has met with a serious accident. God forbid. Okay? Now, you are unaware of this fact and you are naturally happy. If a phone call should come in and say, I am very sorry to tell you that such and such has met a serious accident. What? Your ignorance has gone. And because of your identification with that person, dukkha starts. So here, Kaivalya Upanishad says, listen, right now you have given up all identifications. Leave aside a serious accident that hopefully doesn't happen that often. But these little pinpricks, my daughter is sick and my son has lost his job and my friend has just contacted his father, all kinds of little things here and there and so on and so forth, create a sense of worry and unhappiness. And it is all due to identifications. And at night time, Kaivalya Upanishad says, you give up these identifications and then what happens? Your natural state of sukham comes up. Observe that. So now in verse number 59, another experiential thing comes, which is you are now awake. When you are awake, you remember two things. I slept well and I didn't know anything. And both of them are true. It is ananda and ignorance, tamas. These are your recollections. And of course what it means is that you cannot have recollections unless you have collections. You cannot say that that you were happy, and you don't know anything. You were happy, but you didn't know anything. You cannot say, this is another thing that we have to see, that in sleep, as well as sleep is just a introduction to the reality. Ishvara is so kind that it gives us a very clear experience that we can draw from. Otherwise, we'll never accept all these tall claims by Vedanta. And so really speaking, that the recollection that this is a very pleasant experience is true, and it is based on two recollections. One is ananda and the other one is tamas. And so I'm trying to see whether I should take up a little bit some very interesting and so this is a subtopic which begins on verse number 61 and goes all the way up to 72. And I won't cover all of it. I won't have enough time. But I just want to tell you one thing. Not tell you, but I just want to point out one thing. So what happens is that there are 3 sadhanas. So one is what is called, in the waking state, one is what is called Vijnanamaya Kosha. Vijnanamaya Kosha, or sometimes Jnanamaya Kosha. So Vijnanamaya Kosha is the I sense, the I thought, this is me. This is me. And this thought comes up continuously. This is me. This is me. Whatever you're doing, I'm doing this, I'm going to do that, I forgot, whatever it is, I am there. This is called Vijnanamaya Kosha. The second one is Manomaya Kosha. And Manomaya Kosha, forget about the word Kosha, Vijnanamaya and Manomaya. Manomaya is the instrument that Vijnanamaya has to think, to infer, by which something is known. It is called sadhana. So Vijnanamaya is the person and Manomaya is the instrument. Okay? This being the case, in the 3 states of experience, which is Jagrat, which is waking, and dream, which is Swapna, and deep sleep, which is Sushupti, there are 3 different main instruments for our experience. In the Jagrat Avastha, the main instrument is our sense organs and organs of actions, all the 10 organs. We see things, we react to it, our experiences are governed by what we are experiencing. So this is called the Jagrat Vritti. Vritti means all the thoughts that come about. In the Swapna case, Manaha is the main sadhana. Because your indriyas are asleep, but your mind is active. The mind is creating all kinds of pictures for you, all kinds of situations for you. There is no indriyas, there's nothing else present, it's all inside. In the deep sleep, the sadhana, remember this, we're talking about sadhana. So in the Jagrat Avastha it is Indriya, in the dream Avastha it is Manaha, in deep sleep state it is Tamas. It is ignorance that creates Ananda for you. Okay? So now there is a little bit of a logic and a discussion between them. Okay, so I just want to conclude with this, some very beautiful dialogue. It's about 2 or 3 minutes it will take. So the Shruti says that in the waking state, going back to the contention that when you are awake, you are Vijnanamaya and you have Manomaya, right? This is what we said. So in the waking state you say, I slept very well and I didn't know anything. This is your experience? So this person who is raising a doubt says, okay, and what about the deep sleep state? In deep sleep, the Vijnanamaya was not there and the Manomaya was also not there. So he says, wait a minute, there is a problem here. You are saying that your experience your recollection is based on your experience. Are you not saying that? We said yes, that's what we are saying. You cannot say any recollection unless it is collection. Now, you are saying that Vijnanamaya and Manomaya was not there in the deep sleep. So we say, yep, that's true. It was not there. So how can you say that there is a recollection by a person who was not there? Good point. It's like saying, Tom had an experience and Dick is the one who says, oh, that was an interesting experience. Hey, Dick was not there in the experience. So Siddhanti says, wait, that's not completely true. Why not? They are the same thing. Vijnanamaya and Manomaya and Anandamaya are the same thing. What do you mean by the same thing? You said he was not there. He was there, but in a dissolved state. What do you mean by in a dissolved state? So here a beautiful example is given by the Shastra. And I'll end with this example. The example is the Indian ghee. I think all Indians know this, ghee. And the Westerners may not have. I think they've also experienced ghee. Butter and melted butter you can say. But ghee is the example given. So the Shastra says that, listen, at room temperature, the ghee looks very different. It has a shape, and if you were to put this into the refrigerator, which we do, my wife puts the ghee into the refrigerator, and supposing you want to take some out and put it on a chapati, it's very hard to do because it is so solid, you can't even scrape it very well. You have to let it sit in the room temperature for a while. The same ghee, when it is melted, becomes fluid. So there are two states. One state is when it has a form and it is solid and it is hard to scrape even. And the other one is it is the same ghee. And the same ghee which is melted, if you stop melting it, it will come back to solid state. So therefore it is said, no. Vijnanamaya and Manomaya get melted into, they lose their effectiveness. So it is the same person, really speaking. It is not a different person. So your objection is overruled. So I thought I would end the class with that. There is a little bit more to be talked about the Vijnanamaya Ananda, and then we will start a new subtopic. And I think we're making good progress. As I indicated to you, that we should be done certainly by the 19th, which is the same week that we will start the Purusha Sukta, and possibly on the 12th itself. So 5th, so possibly 2 classes or 3 classes we should be able to wrap up. Okay, this is just a short introduction, and perhaps we can take up this chapter in more detail and some other time. But I think this will give you a sense of the conceptual framework for understanding the science of Ananda. Om Asato Ma Satkamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityor Ma Amritam Gamaya. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Okay. Quite a few questions. Okay, Chris Narayan. Chandra says his Wi-Fi is having an issue again. Really? You mean my Wi-Fi? Were some problems with it? I don't know. Chris Narayan says, what is the subtle difference between Ananda and Anandamaya? Is Anandamaya same as Kamana? That is feeling rich but not rich? Not really. That's so first there are two separate things here. Anandamaya is, and actually this will be taken up in the next couple of classes. So with that with that comment, let me try to address you anyway. It's a good question. Anandamaya is a experiencer in deep sleep. So there's a difference between the experiencer of deep sleep, and it's very close to Ananda, but it is still an experiencer. Why is it still only an experiencer? Because of the curtain of ignorance. If it was exactly Ananda, of course everything is Ananda, because it is either pure Ananda or reflected Ananda. But the reflected Ananda in deep sleep is called Anandamaya. And so that one is still an experience of Ananda, not the real Ananda. And what is keeping it from being real Ananda is ignorance. So we'll take about that. And so for that subject, Anandamaya and Kamana, no, they are completely different, because Kamana, it does not appear in the deep sleep. There is no Kamana in deep sleep. And so the Kamana keeps you as a pramata and a sukhi-dukhi because of Kamana. So it's even further off from Ananda than the deep sleep is. Chris Narayan again, how can one experience non-duality? In order to experience, there should be an object. Aren't we objectifying Brahman? Of course, this is a very good and a common question. So, Brahman is really the only thing in the whole world that does not need objectification. It doesn't need objectification. It is already there. In fact, all it needs is an understanding that all other objects are nothing but reflected objects. And so my own status is that of something that I don't need. So my confusion is with respect to the duality of other things. When that confusion is removed, then I don't have to objectify myself. I'm already there. So that is the short answer, but this requires more discussion, and we will hopefully do that some other time. Here Arvind Taylor says, is Vishayananda and Sushupti joy or bliss? In both cases, mind is Antarkush. So Arvind will take it up. There is no Vishayananda also. This is a very important topic we will still discuss, and but your question is not very intelligible to me, because is Vishyananda and Sushupti joy or bliss, in both cases mind is Antarkush? I know what you mean by Antarkush, but in Sushupti there is no mind. You cannot say mind is Antarkush in Sushupti, because it doesn't even there. And the Antarkush mind, which for others I will discuss this later on, is the one where when you get an object, then you find happiness. This is called Vishayananda. And that Vishayananda is where you turn your attention from the Vishaya to yourself. Anyway, this is a new topic which we haven't taken, so I will have to discuss it some other time. Andrea, we are told repeatedly that nothing happens to Atma. How can there be an experiencer and experience except to Jiva, which is mithya anyway? Ramanand. This is Ramanand's question. Let me read it again. We are told repeatedly that nothing happens to Atman. So how can there be an experiencer and an experience except to Jiva, which is mithya anyway? So this is true. So what happens is that this should all be seen in reference to a dream experience. So in a dream experience, you are a experiencer. You are a dream experiencer. Like, for example, in a dream, supposing you are somebody is chasing you, and you're trying to evade that person, and you're unable to do it. He catches up with you, and all those kinds of things. So there, you are the experiencer of this unhappy chase, and so there is some experiencer. That all happens in the dream. But as a waker, you are neither a chaser or a chased. All things are gone. Those are all mithya. So similarly in our life also, right now when we are experiencing things, it is really not the real me. Not the real me, which is Ananda. Ananda, nothing happens. I am overlaying some kind of an experience on top of the Atma. And so the Atma stays as it is. This I don't quite get yet. And when I get it, this will become very clear. Anyway, something like that. Shanti Kumar, it's a very profound unfoldment. Thank you. All right, I think those were the questions, and I will wait for another minute or so to see if you have any follow-up questions or any other questions. And I'm happy with the type of questions that you are asking, and it requires more time and more background. And so if I'm not able to quite answer your question, I think I know what you're asking, so it's nothing new to me. But it's the only question is whether we have the right setup, we have the right time, and we have the right knowledge of the students to be able to discuss this intelligently. And if we cannot do it in this short format, then we'll have to expand it in other cases, other classes, and so on. That's how I feel. Yeah, Arvind, I think that antarmukhi is a better word. Yes, I thought that you were using antarkush. So antarmukhi is an important thing where you look at yourself. Yeah, right now you're looking at Vish. But this discussion of the antarmukhitvam will come, and I hope to, in the next two classes, definitely talk about it. This discussion will come when we discuss the very important aspect of how do we gain happiness by the acquisition of objects. What happens? What is the process about it? When you eat ice cream or rasagulla or something, why do you feel happy? Doesn't it seem to come from the ice cream and the rasagulla? And aren't they the sources of joy? How come you're the source of joy? All of that discussion, this is what is called Vishayananda. So all this will come in this whole chapter. There are three things that are talked about. One thing which is not talked about is Vidyananda. That will come in some other chapters. But in this chapter, even in our abbreviated understanding of this chapter, this may not be very clear yet. But anyway, three topics are talked about. Vishayananda, Vasanananda, and Pratibimbatananda. Pratibimbananda, I think it's Pratibimbananda. Those three things we should will get introduced to, and hopefully we will discuss it to a point where you can understand it. Thank you, Renu. She says, may you all have a healthy week. See you on Saturday. Okay, with that I take your leave. Good night. Hari Om.